Nikki Haley, we heard there in that little clip. Some are saying she is a potential presidential candidate for, who knows, 2024 maybe. Would you agree with that?
There's a lot of potential. She's bold. She speaks with clarity. She has called the United Nations exactly what it is. Very possible, very capable. And as my Israeli friends in the government press office in Israel said, we could not have created a more effective U.S. ambassador to the UN when it comes to Israel's interests. They are ecstatic over Nikki Haley as well as members of AIPAC and some of the large Jewish lobby groups. She's been tremendous.
She comes from a Sikh background. Now she's, I believe, a member of a Methodist church. I don't know if it's gospel preaching. I have no idea. Do you happen to know if she has any understanding of Israel's end-time role?
I don't know. I don't know, Jan.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you or perhaps Michelle Bachmann can get further acquainted with her as the Trump administration moves on here. You also said something to me in a private conversation, and that was that, and I'm going back to the early part of segment 1, and I raised the globalist community because Donald Trump threw such a curveball at them. They thought their globalist empire was about to blossom thanks to Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump came along, and as I said, you said to me he's up against the New World Order, the globalists. And you also said that we need to keep praying that he have God's continual protection. You feel he does have God's protection. I am concerned for his safety because if we're talking globalists, look, that's a international cartel of leaders who meet in smoke-filled rooms and plan some nasty things, and they concern me. And you feel Donald Trump is actually protected by God. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do need to continue to pray for him and Vice President Pence and their leadership, their cabinet, members of the Pentagon that are in leadership roles. But yes, I feel that President Trump, like most of our presidents in the last 100 years, have had a very significant biblical role. Some obvious, some not so obvious. I mean, Harry Truman, Ronald Reagan, Dick Nixon before Reagan, Jimmy Carter. One way or the other, Jimmy Carter had a role with Camp David. It led to a lot of other things. And then Bush, Clinton, Obama, and now Trump. I mean, they've all had a very significant biblical, in my estimation, final day role of bringing things to completion. And you have a president right now that I believe has supernatural covering. He has Secret Service covering, but I believe that there's covering around him that's impenetrable. I sincerely believe that because this is God's man for the hour. He's imperfect like many of us are, but he is God's man for the hour. They're in the process of developing a U.S.-Israel Sunni coalition. Jared Kushner, the son-in-law, created an opportunity where President Trump had the opportunity to speak to leaders of 55 Muslim countries in May in Riyadh, and he said, "You've got a friend if you stop the terrorism. If you don't, then we're going to reconsider our relationship." So, and he also fully understands the number one threat in the Middle East is Iran, and also the fact that Russia is a threat in the Middle East, and also Russia's trying to continue to gain an even more active role in the Middle East, and he gets intelligence that we don't have. We get a lot, and we can read the think tank writings and everything, Jan, but he gets intelligence briefings from Mike Pompeo most days of the week and other leaders of the Pentagon. He understands what the problem is, and he's the type of guy that will confront it. He won't keep kicking the can down the road like we've done with Iran and like we've done with North Korea. So with that said, that could very plausibly accelerate final day events to be fulfilled as spoken of in the Old and the New Testament.
Right. Well, and you said to me, Donald Trump's biggest role will be to accelerate final day events. Well, let's consider a few of them. We talked about Iran here rather extensively, but again, they're moving into the Middle East more and more. They're active in Syria. Israel is taking out some installations in Syria that seem to be Iranian-backed. We've got Iranian-backed Hezbollah. Many say that's going to be the next war in Israel. Let me ask you, do you see a war in Israel in 2018?
Very possible. We've thought that probably over the last few years that it was becoming more and more possible, especially with Israel and Hezbollah. But Israel continues to take out Iranian military properties inside of Damascus or near Damascus inside of Syria, and they pretty much have their land bridge now that ISIS has been, really defeated in many ways. And, they're becoming more formidable and more aggressive inside of Syria. A couple of weeks ago, there was a meeting. Putin had Erdogan from Turkey and Rouhani from Iran at Sochi to discuss the future of Syria. And, Iran is doing what they can to develop a military infrastructure in Syria that would put every inch of Israel at risk and continue to fortify Hezbollah. So, it gets back to what we were talking about earlier, Jan. At some point, Israel's going to have to make that decision. We can't wait any longer.
Yeah.
And whether it's Israel by themselves or U.S. Israel, something could give in 2018. And as we've talked before, Israel's gifting is preemptive strikes.
Yep, I know.
So they will hit when no one expects them to.
Yeah, well, again, as we already stated, Israel has the right U.S. president in office right now. Under Barack Obama, he promised to shoot down Israeli planes if they tried to take out any of the Iranian nuclear reactors. Was that bizarre? I never thought I'd live to see that. I also never thought I would live to see Israel reaching out and actually sort of becoming an ally of outfits like Saudi Arabia. I don't see them as a moderate nation, but nonetheless, the two are becoming friendlier and friendlier because Saudi Arabia, again, is afraid of Iran. So these are unions that I just didn't think I'd see in my lifetime.
Absolutely. That's the good thing that came from Obama's missteps in the Middle East, his Iran nuke deal, his calling ISIS a JV team. It forced the Saudis, the United Arab Emirates, and Egypt and Jordan to have a level of cooperation with Israel's defense and intelligence community as never before. That's the good news. And now you have a president that is willing to help develop a U.S.-Israel Sunni coalition stand up against Iran. So that continues to emphasize the importance of that relationship. And as mentioned before, the Saudis believe that Israel would be the first to be hit by a nuclear weapon from Iran and that they would be second. And they are very concerned about that.